The first person that I would like to introduce this evening is Matthew Jefferson. Matthew is a senior at East Tennessee State University. He's majoring in English and minoring in technical writing. He is a veteran of the United States Marine Corps as well as the United States Army. He is the chair and co-founder of Students of American Liberty. Please welcome Matthew Jefferson.
Representatives of our government, representatives of the media, students, faculty, staff, veterans, neighbors, friends, and family of our community. Welcome to the Students of American Liberty's Anti-War Lecture and Forum. My name is Matthew Adam Jeffers. I'm the co-founder of Students of American Liberty. The main purpose of our nonpartisan organization is advocating the teaching of our United States Constitution and to allow forum for political discussion regarding constitutional issues. Our secondary purpose is to highlight governmental abuse and neglect of American civil liberties. Since last year, when we officially formed, we organized the distribution of several hundred pocket constitutions. We've celebrated our Second Amendment with marksmanship and safety training. We've taken part in debates, conventions, and conferences, and we now assemble peacefully, en masse, for a hearing on the matter of peace and an end to the destructive tragedy playing itself out in the Middle East. But before I continue, I'd like to thank the following organizations for supporting our organization in this endeavor. And if I could ask everyone to hold their applause until the end of the list, I would appreciate it. ANTIWAR.com, the Libertarian Party of Tennessee, the Peace Building Institute of East Tennessee, the Appalachian Peace Education Center, Concerned Tennessee Citizens, Foxfire Friends, Meeting of the Holston Valley, East Tennessee Liberty at www.et-liberty.com, ETSU Black Affairs Association, ETSU Students for a Democratic Society, ETSU Atheist and Free Thought Club, staff members of ETSU Language and Culture Resource Center, and finally, the Acoustic Coffee House. Let's give them a hand, folks. Now, as our endorsing groups demonstrate, there is an energy and a drive towards peace across the spectrum. To me, the dueling of war and peace should not be thought of as merely a political issue, a left or a right issue. Only together can we bring about the ends that we desire. So no matter what perspective our speakers might bring tonight, I believe we should encourage these individuals desiring peace to have their say, no matter their background or affiliation. Likewise, I have heard from many of you here today, and I have been so fortunate to have met with so many of you. And you know, we've talked a lot. We've talked about problems and solutions, activism and ideals. However, my greatest concern is that there is so much energy wasted on talk. So many of us resign ourselves to simply voting and patiently hoping and silently waiting and endlessly praying. Votes, hopes, tears, prayers, nothing stops the future, and none of these things stops war. When those who control demand war from your money and your body and your children's bodies. It's time that we, the people, take back control. We take back our government, take back our rights and our Constitution, take back the foreign policy of non-interventionism and the domestic policy of respecting individual liberties. Only by setting a strong example here at home could we ever hope to bear witness to the twilight of the tyrants and the dawn of peace around the world. I've lived only 25 years. I'm half the age of some of you. Despite my age, I know and I understand that I'm saying the words that have to be said and I'm doing the things that have to be done during this era of doublethink and doublespeak, where America makes perpetual global war for a type of unobtainable peace. And according to our current foreign and domestic policies, anyone, anywhere, at any time can be classified as a terrorist. And the evidence used to make that assertion doesn't even have to be factual or real. That's why we're in Iraq. The truth of it all is as startling to hear as it is frustrating to speak. The war on terror is a war on you. In this scheme, this scam, you and I, all Americans, we are the perpetual victims. Therefore, we now have eternal precedent to invade and bomb and occupy. Now, however, we are made victims twofold. Now that Rahm Emanuel and Barack Obama's mandatory service plan is on the table, the civilian draft. Soon, to resist war, to resist service will itself become criminal. An act of non-participation or non-interventionism would become treason. You would be labeled a terrorist. Talk of winning the war on terror is just that, talk. By its design, the war on terror cannot be won. But if we have our way, it can be brought to an end. Ending the war via active resistance, supporting the right legislation, and speaking out in public is a craft that our organization is slowly mastering, and we are not the only ones. For the last 2 years across America, I've been traveling, and the rest of you I've been seeing and hearing. You are organizing, you are protesting, you are dissenting, you are physically, mentally, and spiritually standing for basic human decency and that peculiar and rarest of all philosophy, that of American liberty. But how long will we be allowed to do that? How long before those of us now standing are made silent? But then again, I have to realize things don't get better if you keep your mouth shut and keep your head down. How long before the young men and women I see in this room right now, not unlike my 7 years ago when I joined the Marine Corps, how long before they are drafted and fed to the military? How long before the government says, hey, remember those stimulus checks? Yeah, you owe us something. Or what if in a brief moment of honesty, they actually told you the true mentality behind it all? You have to serve to be free. Human beings are not slaves by default. We are made that way by institutions of fraud, force, and collectivism. And the institution of war is the most damnable and enslaving of all enterprise. American minds are too bright to be darkened by war. American liberties are too precious to be extinguished by war. American lives are too valuable to be spent and wasted on war. And I will not go silently without mentioning the 1 million Iraqi lives that have already been taken, or the next million, who knows where it'll be, and the next million after that. Middle Eastern lives, American lives, human lives, our lives were, are, and forever will be more valuable than any utopian world promised to us by the Pentagon or Washington, D.C. The global war on terror can never lead us to a utopia. Its slowly twisting path has been walked before. Its uncontrolled crash, its fiery descent can only lead us back to one place, and I will say it, Holocaust. And that is something I refuse to support, and that is something I will not stand for. So when you're told that America is supposed to mean something that it's not, and you're supposed to support something you can't, and that we're to be the wardens of a prison planet, and you're the one wrong if you want something better, how long before you stand up and say, no? When you leave here tonight, you'll have your time. You'll have all the time in the world. But what will you do with that time? Will you be overwhelmed by the media? Will you be lulled by sky-gazing overtures and platitudes from the same policymakers, election after election after election? Or will you start a petition? Will you draft legislation? Will you handcraft a sign, distribute flyers, write a protest song, and then, in the words of the immortal Bill Hicks, will you sing from your heart? Will you march? Will you stand up and demand change and shape change with your hands and become the change in your mind, in your heart, instead of just sitting and hoping for change? Will you sit or will you stand? When you're told to give up, will you stand up? When you're told to throw your body, your life, your dreams into a war machine, will you stand up? When you're told to put away your religion or your non-religion, when you're told to put away your beliefs or your spiritual non-beliefs, when you're told to put away your guns, your resistance, your non-violent pacifism, when you're told to put away your constitution, be seated quietly, and follow a political agenda, will you stand up? If, or inevitably when, you do take your stand, it is a stand that lasts a lifetime. When you do take your stand, I will be right there with you. When you stand, every conscientious objector, every protester, every poet, every veteran, mother, father, scholar, teacher, believer, politician, and citizen and patriot for peace will be standing right there with you. When we stand, this republic stands, and it will stand forever, as long as we never forget what we stand for. Thank you.